Hey everyone, welcome back to Staying Strong for Marriage. This is a YouTube channel dedicated to helping people walk through marriage, separation, or divorce using Christian principles. We're always trying to see more people make their marriages work, see more marriage restorations. Today, I'm just taking a look at some different articles and what's going on in regards to marriage and children, and trying to just keep up to date on what's happening. Man, there's some interesting stuff. You guys are going to love this. So let's start off with some babies, right? Look at them kids. Looking all cute and everything in their pastels, crying and sleeping all the time. So this is first article we're going to check out, and it's going to set the stage. U.S. needs more babies, more immigrants, more integration. They're going to basically look at this problem of, people like we've been talking about, just having less children, waiting to get married later, waiting to have less children. We're going to look at some of the reasons. Is it because of student debt? Is it because it takes a long time for people to get into their marriages? Does it have something to do with infertility? Does it have to do with the divorce rates? Well, we're going to look into probably not all of that, but it's all things that get kind of tossed around. This is cool. So the blue line is the ideal reported fertility. The green, total fertility rate. And the purple is the difference between the two. So 1972 and 2016. And basically the purple line is just the difference between this, representing this gap right here. So what they're going to start talking about in a lot of these articles we're going to be looking at is that there's this replacement rate in order to have enough children, in order to keep, people are talking about desired fertility. Now, and sometimes this means, and I'm not going to define it for us, it looks like this one is more talking about women who would like to have more children than they're actually having. This is a common theme we're going to see. Higher fertility would be good, but it's hard to achieve. Look at this. Lots of money for small gains in fertility. So I'm going to get right into this, and we're going to be looking at these politicians, governments, and many nations that are trying to figure out how can we have our people to have more kids. They're looking at, well, it's either have more kids or it's, open the doors for more immigrants. But the thing with immigrants is that, they say that, it takes a lot of time and money to integrate people into society, and it just depends on job quality and linguistic skills and all these things. But immigrant share of population growth by decade. So this is the U.S., and it's lagged 10-year period. What do you think the population growth is contributed to by immigration? 30%? I don't know, 40%? 10%? 100%? Well, this peak here puts it at 70%. Immigrant share of population growth. And this is in, I don't know, 2000, and I know it's a little hard to see, maybe 2003. So, man, are you kidding? 70% of population growth came from immigration in 2000? What in the world? Shocker, right? Now they go all the way back to 72. And it looks like it's been pretty high for a lot of years. Sometimes it dips down, but this is like the 40, 50%. This is 40, 50 percentile level here. So sometimes it's up pretty high. It shouldn't be immigration versus fertility. Let's increase both. We need immigrants to fill a vital role in our cultural milieu. Anyways, but they say integration of immigrants gets harder. Economic, cultural adjustments, empowerment of women and families to have kids they want to have. Given how dire? Is it really that dire? I guess it's pretty dire. Pro-population growth agenda. Also sometimes called, I think, like a pro-natal agenda. It's like, I'm not a big news reader, so this is kind of, I've just been had my head in the books, finance stuff for about the last year and a half, so haven't read a lot of stuff like this. It's interesting. Integrate faster. Anyway, so that's setting the stage. So we're going to look, there's this organization called the Institute for Family Studies. We're going to look at 2 articles by them. And it just says that they're a conservative think tank, which according to its website has expressed mission to, quote, strengthen marriage and natural family, and advancing the well-being of children through research and public education. It's interesting. This looks a lot like Wikipedia. It's actually sourcewatch.com. So I feel like they intentionally made it look exactly like Wikipedia. It says it has an $83 million right-wing empire. The SPN. What is it? SPN? State Policy Network. Well, if you've not heard of Joe Rogan, he is a very popular online interviewer. He does a Joe Rogan podcast, and you can find him on YouTube. But check this one out: the Joe Rogan Experience, episode 1221. He interviews a man named Jonathan Haidt. Jonathan is a social psychologist and professor. He tells us about this whole situation that went down at Portland State University, where I can't remember all these people's names. You can check it out. Where basically, like, some researchers made up some fake news, kind of fake research, and they submit it to their peers, and so it has to get peer reviewed. It has to be read by other professors and deemed of a high quality, and then it gets sent to the publisher, and then it has to go through another round of approvals. And it's all very, review and send it back to us, and people really hope. I mean, really, their salaries and promotions are based on the number of publications and the quality of journal that they get published in. So, well, these guys just made up some nonsense, and they were trying to see if in the social sciences, if they could kind of put on display for the world how kind of corrupted, how ideologically corrupted this field has become. And so, yeah, I mean, who knows when it comes to the Institute of Family Studies. We're going to see that it's really ideologically backed, maybe religiously backed. There's also a ton of money that is involved in these decisions. Nevertheless, the IFS, the Institute for Family Studies think tank, in 2018 puts out an article, No Ring, No Baby, How Marriage Trends Impact Fertility. We're just going to look at the graphs again. So total fertility rates vary widely by marital status. Basically, this blue line is married with the spouse present. And so you can see this is the optimal situation if a society is looking to have children. If you want to have children, this is the best way to do it. All these other ones, married but the spouse is absent, separated is the blue, pink is divorced, actual TRF, ACS, widowed, and then never married. So you do have people having children in these other areas, but obviously just at not as high of a rate. And so that's something for these folks to look at. This is a weird one. Marriage changes. Changes in marriage explain, half or more of fertility shifts. Meaning that if you want to understand why people are having children or not, they say that marriage in and of itself explains half of the puzzle for you. It solves half of the quandary. So pretty interesting. Check this out. I'll see if I can get in on this. So then you have all these countries, these people trying to figure out, how much money is it going to cost to convince these people to have more children? What do we need to do? What policy measures can we create and enact? It says, since 2008, about half of the decline in fertility can be attributed to change in marital composition. Most commonly cited reasons are financial need. Okay, maybe you can't find gainful employment, maybe can't barely make it, can't dig out of student debt, personal unpreparedness, and lack of a suitable partner. Lack of a suitable partner sounds like a big fat lame excuse to me, but whatever, that's just me talking. The last two factors speak to the role of the culture. Changing cultural norms and values about sex, family, and religion may have reduced the value of the marriage proposition and tightened the criteria for eligibility for marriage. Many young people today have a stricter standard for themselves and for others, but what constitutes readiness for marriage? Cohabitating, okay, we already talked about this. accounts of women who would like to be married, want to have kids, and want to have some serious relationships, but those things just never turned into something. Gallup polling gives this cultural story some weight. The share of people who thought it was important for a couple planning to spend the rest of their life together to actually get married fell 73% in 2006 to 64% in 2013. So that's not really that many years. Talking 7-year period. Things change pretty quick. In blue, marital status is a key determinant of whether or not women have as many kids as they want. They go on to look at all this stuff about women, are they getting the number of kids that they want? Birth rates after age 25 have risen most for educated, unmarried women. Only fallen for more educated married women. So basically, these two lines down here, the solid blue and the solid purple, you can see those are below the black 0% no change line. So those are the only ones that are in kind of decline. Everyone else is having more kids. So these dotted or broken lines are never married or divorced, separated, or widowed. So those are the people having the kids. The married people, apparently, with the highest education aren't. More years spent married, smaller fertility gap. So the biggest gap is for the never married, and then married 1 to 5 years, married 6 to 10 years, 11 to 15 years, and 16 years or more. So the dark one is the expectations gap. The lighter one is the personal desire gap. They just analyze and they say the graph above shows that women who spend fewer of their reproductive years married tend to have a bigger shortfall in births versus expectations. Turns out that not being married is closely associated with women not achieving their fertility expectations or desires. Cohabitation is not an equivalent substitute for marriage where fertility is concerned. I mean, that makes sense. Why would you want to have a child with someone where there's no commitment? I mean, there's a huge push, a huge number of guys online who are coaching younger men to say, listen, never get married, never cohabitate with a woman, just live at your place, she can live at her place. That way, if there's any pregnancy that occurs, so if there's ever a child born out of wedlock, maybe you can't prove it's yours or whatever, but the courts try to get these guys to pay the alimony and the child support, maybe for a child isn't theirs or for a child that, they were never married to this woman. They're saying that's the advice to these guys. And so, you can understand. It's very risky. I mean, I wouldn't want to have a child, even if I wasn't a Christian, I wouldn't want to have a child with someone I wasn't married to. Share of women included in the sample who are likely to achieve fertility expectations or not by marital status. So the light color already met or exceeded expectations, or can expect to do so soon. The dark one, unlikely to ever meet or exceed expectations. So married people, it's even. Others, it's more common that they will not ever meet their expectations, and also the same with the never married. Across all ages and marital statuses, more women undershoot their fertility ideals than overshoot. So then they look at this next part. Can Uncle Sam boost American fertility? Whoa, government intervention. Let's see what we can do with those tax dollars, put those things to work. In light of the numbers just released by the CDC indicating that fertility fell again last year, American fertility rates remain at or near record low levels, even as a growing chorus of politicos on the left and right call for increased government aid to families. The United States has seen below replacement rate fertility for nearly a decade now, meaning that the average woman who reaches reproductive age is expected to have fewer children than is necessary to maintain a stable population in the United States without including immigration. As a result, immigration now represents the vast majority of U.S. population growth. We saw that in 2000, it was like 70%. Historical fertility rates in the United States. I know it's a little hard to see, so where the cursor is now, 1820. It's going by increments of 20. So say this is 1800, and then up to 2000, like to the present, 2020. So gold one, estimated completed fertility rate. I gotta look this up. What is estimated completed fertility rate? Completed fertility is the average number of children born to a given generation of women throughout their fertile lives. Their mortality is not taken into account. It is the sum of fertility rates by age in a generation. Total fertility rate refers to the number of children that a hypothetical female would have over the course of her reproductive life if she experienced the age-specific fertility rates observed in a given calendar year. Female refers to a person whose sex is female. Basically just two different ways to measure fertility. Most Western countries have fertility shortfall. So, what is this? Eurobarometer 2011 ideal fertility data. Eurostate completed fertility. U.S. intended fertility from General Social Survey. Census Bureau, completed in 2009. So, Germany, Slovenia, reading from left to right, negative 7.1. That's almost a whole child. Germany, Slovenia, Netherlands, Finland, Estonia, Spain, France, UK, Lithuania, Sweden, Italy, Hungary, Austria, the United States, negative 0.16. Portugal, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, and Bulgaria hitting in the positive numbers. So having kids is expensive, blah, 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 blah. This is where it gets interesting. But can we push fertility up? Some research says yes. 0.3% of GDP dedicated to an unconditional cash transfer to French families may have boosted short-run total fertility by 0.3 children per woman. Wow. That's a big effect. Another study of France, this one much longer run, showed that its very family-friendly tax bracket structure boosts fertility as well. Research on a monthly child allowance in Israel suggests that each dollar per child per month boosted fertility by about 0.01% for every dollar per month. So at one time, cash transfer ranging from $500 to $3,000 in Quebec may have caused, wow, a 10.7% to 25% increase in births for families in Quebec. A study of British welfare systems showed that a 50% higher per child welfare outlay yielded 15% higher births. A baby bonus in Australia boosted fertility, but at the cost of over $100,000 per child. Oh my. A special subsidy to have a second or third child in Russia boosted second childbearing by 2.2%. Meanwhile, various increases in the generosity of maternity pay in Romania and Germany increased childbearing as well. Finally, a study of pro-natalist policy throughout Europe suggested that while family allowance spending had little impact, family leave could boost first childbearing. And subsidized childcare could boost later childbirth. But there's a problem. Most of these studies look at short-run fertility. Look at this. So on the left half of this column, it's going to look at the short-run replacement fertility, and on the right half, the replacement level completed fertility. The point is, what they're basically doing is they're looking at the US and they're trying to decide, if we apply these different systems developed in all these different countries, how much would we have to pay out on a monthly basis for 6 years as 6-year monthly allowance? Yes, as 6-year monthly allowance. So let's look. The Australian method, one-time child payout, comes to like $188 a month. I guess the average of all of these is $500 a month. This is just for the short run replacement fertility. France, $550. Germany, about $300. Israel system, $1,158. The UK, $300. So people have run all these numbers. They've like looked at this. They're not joking around. I mean, I guess no one runs on this, or I mean, I'm not that into American politics. It's just like, and definitely not into international politics. I do find it somewhat interesting, but I don't get into this deep a level. Well, Senator Marco Rubio has a plan, adjusted monthly allowance equivalents of $356. Center for American Progress, $375. Congressman Ro Khanna, $488. University of Wisconsin-Madison academics has a $750 child allowance. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, $900. So what? Comparing possible fertility effects to proposed policies. I mean, obviously it could be a lot of money depending upon which metric you're really aiming at. Anyway, there's all this data on this. I mean, all these people. And the point is, it's like, well, why not just help people stay married? Why not revive the idea of marriage in the culture? Why not, change the... I'm sure there's studies that talk about if you change the no-fault divorce thing, if that helps or not. I remember seeing somewhere that one study said it doesn't. So, but there has to be something better. This is from the GFC, the Gail Fossler Group. Chart 1, the income gap between married and non-married households has widened. So the red is married couples, both working full-time. This blue one is all married couples. The green one is all households. And at the bottom, all one-person households. Obviously, they make the least. I mean, it's no surprise. So it's demographics, the social and economic impacts of falling marriage rates by Josh Tom, 2014. The share of American adults who have never been married is at its highest level in 50 years, according to a new Pew Research Center report. The report shows that 20% of all adults over age 25 have never been married as of 2012, up from 9% from 1960. Yeah. Personal attitudes and preferences are changing. Seemingly, people feel society will be fine regardless of whether we marry or not. I mean, what in the world? It's so different, right, than the Christian perspective. I mean, this is one of these things where people, I think at some point they're going to just say, you Christians are like out to lunch. Like, why do you guys believe in marriage so much? Well, children born into married couple households have a huge advantage. Maybe that's our answer. Maybe we're going to say, look, married couple households have a huge advantage, It's good for children. Anyways, what is this? Mean income by family structure with children present. Somewhere around $80,000 for married couples. If it's the male householder, no spouse, at least one child, it's in the red. This is the really interesting, this is awful. Female householder, no spouse, at least one child, somewhere like $21,000 a year. Even in 2013, I mean, that's like no money. This is what's so shocking to me. I mean, I'd never gone really much in the South until I moved to Florida a few years ago, like a long time ago actually, but I mean, it was really amazing to see how people were living. It really reminded me of other places I'd been outside of America. Wasn't quite as bad, but it was very clear that people were living off government programs, and the available money was it just wasn't there. Also, there's this stat that 70% of children in black communities are born, African American communities, are born outside of the context of marriage. So, I mean, man, I mean, that's just, these things kind of blow my mind sometimes. So, I hope you found it interesting and informative. And of course, you've probably not heard of all these organizations. I definitely haven't, but it's really interesting to see how political, I mean, seriously political, children is becoming. And I don't think that it's some push back to morality or something like that, but it's really interesting that if there's those of us in the church that can provide something useful to the culture, perhaps it's, here's the best way to raise kids, here's the best way to keep people married, here's the best way to understand conflict. But some of these things we aren't talking about, and I try to bring these up. You know, I try to bring up the leadership stuff, the happy life, happy wife, happy life stuff. I try to look at some of the different ideas about, well, maybe we shouldn't be getting divorced as often as we are. And if we are getting divorced, maybe we should be praying and seeking marriage restoration more than we are. And we'll check that out in the future. I hope you all are doing well. And